Hello everyone, my name is Taya Hall. I'm from the University of West Alabama and I will be presenting my signature project, Stage 2, entitled The Effects of Cognitive Behavior Therapy Strategies on Adolescent Anxiety Symptoms. The driving force for my research was these two graphical representations. If you would like to look at the reference and the entire article they come from, they are to the left. The first chart, which is on the top, it is entitled Mental and Behavioral Health Conditions by Age. So what this chart did is it looked at 3 different conditions of mental health, including anxiety, depression, and behavioral disorders. And it also has 3 different age ranges, ages of 3 to 5, which is in the light blue color, ages 6 to 11 in the navy, and ages 12 to 17 in the orange. So for this particular study, I was mainly looking at the ages 6 to 11 and then the 12 to 17, mainly around the 10 to 12 mark, because this is the age of students that I do teach. So just looking at the orange, we are going to look at anxiety, depression, and behavioral disorders. So as you can see, it does have very high percentages for these children in these age range. So especially anxiety, we've got 15% of students ranging from the age of 12 to 17 who claim that they have anxiety or are showing anxiety symptoms. Also depression symptoms, which is right at about 10%, and then just a range of different behavioral disorders, which is going to be about the 6 to 7% of children. And then the bottom chart is entitled Students' 5 Most Cited Obstacles to Learning. 50% of students in the education system say that depression, stress, and anxiety symptoms are the biggest obstacle to their learning in the educational classroom. So just based off of that right there, half of my students are dealing with these symptoms and they claim it is an obstacle to their learning. So that is the driving force for why I conducted this study and how I can best help my students in this area. The identified problem for this study: increased adolescent anxiety has hindered the productivity in the educational classroom. Students are experiencing anxiety symptoms such as trouble focusing, disengagement with their peers, and irritability. These can have a direct impact on a student's performance in the classroom. The purpose of this study is to address these problems, and it will look at the effectiveness of using cognitive behavior therapy strategies in the classroom to reduce students' symptoms of anxiety. Cognitive behavior therapy involves exposing students to the thing that they are having anxious thoughts about. Cognitive behavior therapy also can be phrased as talk therapy, where students are really just talking about the things that they are struggling with, but it does go beyond just talking about it. There are certain strategies that you can use to help students with these anxiety symptoms. So some of the data that will be collected throughout this study, data collection, students in this study will be split into 2 groups using a cluster sampling technique. The groups will be a control group and an experimental group. All students will take 2 GAD-7 assessments, a pretest and a post-test. The GAD-7 measures the severity of a student's anxiety. Results are totaled based on a point system. And then how we are going to analyze this data: after students have taken both tests, they will total up their points. The post-test scores are aimed to be lower than the pre-test scores. This will indicate that the CBT strategies have been beneficial. A little bit of background regarding some different things, some different areas in this study. Looking at the population of students included in this study, the population for this study will consist of 6th grade students at Union Hill School located in Summerville, Alabama. The 6th grade class is composed of 48 students, where 42% are males and 58% are females. The population is composed of 4% of the population identifying as African American, where 2 are males and there are no females. 52% identify as Caucasian, 10 are males and 15 are females, and 44% identifying as Hispanic, where 8 are males and 13 are females. Now jumping into the action plan of what we are actually going to be doing and how we are going to be conducting this study, looking at the sampling method and the technique used. The sample for this study will be all 48 of the 6th grade students at Union Hill School. The students are split into 2 separate classes at the beginning of the year, with both classes being chosen to participate in the study. To determine the experimental group, we will use a cluster sampling technique. The experimental group will be labeled as Group A, and the control group will be labeled as Group B. The sample will consist of 24 students in the experimental group and 24 students in the control group. By using a cluster sampling technique, this ensures that the study will remain free from bias and that both groups have an equal chance at being selected to be the experimental group because cluster sampling technique is randomized. Looking at the instrument we will be using to assess the data. This instrument is the GAD-7 assessment. This is the instrument used for the pre and post assessment. It is called the GAD-7, which is an acronym for Generalized Anxiety Disorder Assessment. The 7 represents the different 7 levels of anxiety symptoms that are being assessed. This is a screening tool to help detect generalized anxiety disorders in adolescents. It is also, it helps to monitor the symptoms of GAD as well. It is a self-report questionnaire that outlines 7 areas. The GAD-7 is a commonly used instrument for adolescents because its ease of use. It has also been validated and used effectively in multiple studies. There are other different assessments that you can use, but they are not really validated as far as research goes in different studies just because they are very lengthy, very difficult for students to understand. And so this is why I like to use the GAD-7 because of its ease of use, and it is very simple for the students to understand where they are not getting overwhelmed. So if we'll just take a look at the assessment on the right, there are just 7 different questions, and they are very simple for students to understand. They really are not even full sentences. Looking at number 4, it is just 2 words where it says trouble relaxing. So if students have trouble relaxing, they are going to rate that symptom based on just a simple number system of 0, 1, 2, or 3. So it's very simple for the students to understand, does not have very complex words, complex sentences where students get confused. So that's why I chose to use the GAD-7. Collaborative efforts. So what is everyone going to be doing in this study? All teachers associated with the 6th grade will participate in the study. The teachers will collaborate by partaking in a professional development session regarding adolescent anxiety, just to give them some background information about what does adolescent anxiety look like, what are some different triggers students may have, what are some symptoms that they may have. They will also create a preemptive plan and a conflict resolution plan. The preemptive plan is going to outline different strategies the students will use at the beginning of class to kind of help students before the symptoms actually occur. It's going to put their mind at ease. It's going to give them different strategies to use so the symptoms don't occur as much. And then the conflict resolution plan, of course, teaching 6th grade students, conflicts are going to happen. So when they do happen, this is just a plan for how the teachers and students will go about resolving the conflict. Teachers will review the results of the GAD-7 assessments. Parents are also included by giving consent for their child to partake in the study. Principals and support staff that are associated with the students are collaborators as well. So 6 different procedures that will take place in this study. I have broken this down, just 6 basic steps. There are more details that are outlined in my research proposal in stage 1 of my signature plan if you would like to read those. But these are just the 6 basic outlines of what's going to take place. Number 1, teachers will do the professional development session. They will become familiarized with the GAD-7 assessment, and they will create the two plans, the preemptive plan and the conflict resolution plan. Step number 2, parents and students will be notified of the study and given consent forms. Number 3, students are split into groups using the cluster sampling technique, and they will be given the GAD-7 pretest. Step 4, teachers use strategy plans in the classroom. Step 5, students will take the GAD-7 post-test. And step 6, teachers will analyze the results and compare the group scores. The validity of this study. Internal validity. All students participating in the study will be taking the same assessment. Students are grouped using a random sampling technique, and names are not used on assessments to ensure that bias is limited. They will be given a random number instead of using their names on the assessment. External validity. This study was proposed because it has real-world applications outside of the general education classroom. So not only is this study going to help students in the classroom, it will help them in the real world as well. Ethical considerations concerning confidentiality of the students. The students who will be participating in this study are minors. Therefore, the parents or guardians of the students participating will be completing a consent form before the study begins. The consent form will state what the purpose of the study is, how the study will be conducted daily, and what the students will be doing throughout the study. The parent has the right to decline participation. The students also will be assigned a random number at the beginning of the study. This ensures that student confidentiality remains intact. This ensures that students can feel safe to participate in the study because their identity and their answers will be kept anonymous. Students will be debriefed on the study as well before it begins to ensure they are aware of everything that will take place in the study. Students may also decline participation. Special populations. The students who will not partake in the study are students who choose not to or whose parents do not sign the consent form. The results of this study. This was a proposed study, so no results for this study are found. It is my hypothesis that if teachers use CBT strategies such as conflict resolution and preemptive strategies, then students will experience decreased symptoms of anxiety in the classroom. Reflection of the study. It is difficult to say what changes need to be made because the study was not carried out. However, I believe this study would need to be a long-term study rather than a short-term study to be the most beneficial for the students and the results of this study.